I'm going to share some tips on picking technique, because I feel as though it's been a bit neglected on my channel. When I look back at what I've done and what I haven't done, it feels like there's something missing there. I've mentioned picking in a few of my riff videos. I've also done an exercise series, I think I called it 1, 2, 3, 4, where we're doing a basic exercise, which is great for your picking and your fretting hand as well, and your coordination. But I've kind of realised that all that stuff together is not focusing down on just purely the picking, so you're having to try and put a few techniques together in order to do exercises like that one that I've already recorded and published. So for this, I'm just going to focus right down on just the picking hand. When I say picking hand, for these examples I'm using a plectrum, so I'm not using finger picking. I'm talking about plectrum playing. I'm going to upload another video about plectrums and holding plectrums and stuff like that, so I'm not going to mention that too much here. Keep an eye out for that on the channel. Just talking about some ideas that might improve your picking, or if you're not used to picking, hopefully get you off to a good start with some decent habits and not pick up some bad habits. So picking, we're talking about picking. I'm making a differential between picking and strumming. When I first start with a brand new student who can't play, we normally look at strumming before picking. The reason that I do that, it's not the only way. Other teachers, other YouTubers might do it different. That's great. The reason I do it that way is because the main reason is I like to try and get the student being able to play a recognisable song as soon as possible. So by learning a couple of chords and just being able to stroke across the strings, even if we've got to simplify the chords down to 2 or 3 string chords, doesn't matter. They can get playing something that's recognisable, they can play along to or sing along to, play along to the CD, whatever, and I find that they find that really motivating. So I tend to do that, strumming, before I get into picking, and that's probably why I found my channel as it is now without the picking videos. So when I talk about strumming, we're going to finger a chord and play across the strings, either using a plectrum or using your fingers down or up, down or up. So the difference between strumming and picking is, rather than going across all the strings, or some chords we don't use all the strings, so a D we're just playing across 4 strings, rather than stroking across a number of strings, we're just concentrating on 1 string, and that's what we're going to start with for the picking. So that's what I'm talking about. Now you'll notice, hopefully, the first thing you can see, if I play a 6-string chord like a root G chord, just pay attention to my strumming hand, my picking hand, my strumming hand, it's the same hand. Look at the motion, look at the distance my hand is moving across those strings. I'm having to get across all of the strings on the guitar for any 6-string chord. It could be a bar chord, just the same, but I'm making a big movement with my strumming picking hand. Now what we need to do, if we're used to strumming, then we'll need to cut that movement down and make that movement less in order to get clean, effective, efficient picking. If I was asked what's the one trick or the one rule for picking technique, it's efficiency. It's moving your hand as little as possible in order to achieve the result. To put that into perspective, rather than playing across all the strings, my hand movement, if I'm just to pick 1 string, I'm going to use my A string, I'm just going to pick notes on my A string. Can you see how little my hand is moving there compared to, I'm playing an A now, let me play an A chord. It's a very different technique, very different movement, and we're looking at moving our hand as little as possible. Now that's something that will come over time and practice to get the movement, the technique, just like everything, to get it right. But that's, as a starting point, I feel that that's something that really you should take on board as good technique, because as you play more, as you improve more, as you get better, the chances are you'll want to play music that's maybe more complicated, that's more technically demanding, sometimes faster. You might not be into thrash metal and speed metal like I am, so you might not want to be going flat out all the time, but there's a good chance that there will reach a point where your technique on your picking speed holds you back. These aren't master classes on how to develop picking speed, but by having good economy of movement and focusing on your technique, that'll give you the best chance going forward. So again, just looking at that small movement on the hand, it's obviously, I'm not using much energy there, I'm not using much movement, and when I speed that up, because I've got to repeat it quite quickly, lots of times, the smaller the movement, the easier it is for me to get back to pluck the note again. By the way, I'm just playing down picks at this point. I'll look at alternate picking in another video on this series, don't worry about that, but for now all that is down picking. And when I pick a note down, I start above the string. By the time I've played it, my plectrum is below the string, so in order to pick again, I have to move it back up to above the string to hit it again, and that's where the economy comes in. It's really, really important to get that down before we move on to metronome, speeding it up, alternate picking, anything like that. My this first lesson is about just that economy of movement. So if you're used to strumming, those big hand movements, then it's about reducing that hand movement to what's suitable for what we're playing. So to begin with, I'll leave you with something that you can have a practice with. I've started off on the A string for a reason. A lot of these exercises I'm tempted to start on the E string because it's the fattest one, it's the top one, it's on the end of the guitar, so it's easy to find for beginners. But I'm using the A string for a reason. When we're playing the A string, that's your 5th string, I'm going to practice just picking on that, so that's going to help you with your accuracy. With the A string, I've got a string either side of it, so if I'm not picking in the right place, I'm going to accidentally hit the other strings. So if I'm picking too close to the E string on the guitar, I'll end up catching that one. Opposite ways, if I'm picking too close to the D string on the guitar, I'll end up catching the other string. So that's really easy for you to be able to tell if your picking technique's incorrect. All you want to hear is just that A string, you don't want to hear the other two. I'm using an open string because then we can focus purely on what our picking hand is doing. My fretting hand is doing nothing. I was holding the guitar just like that with it. I'm doing nothing with it. I'm not muting strings, I'm not fretting chords, I'm not doing anything fancy. So I can forget about this hand for the purpose of this exercise. So I can really, really concentrate on what I'm doing with my picking hand. So I can forget about the other hand if need be, because I don't have to worry about fretting a chord, where to put my fingers. I can actually look down and I can observe what my hand's doing. And if something's going wrong, I can actually see what's going wrong. So I'm really focused down just on that one technique of picking the string. This is really boring, it's an exercise, it's not designed to sound musical, it's not designed to get your adrenaline flowing, but it's one of those things that if you don't know it, it's useful to know, or if you've learnt it wrong, it's useful to learn it back the right way. So have a go at that. As I say, I suggest starting on your A string to begin with, because you'll be able to know if you're really far out and you're hitting the other strings. Once you're confident doing it on your A string. Nice and cleanly. Doesn't matter how fast we're going at this point. I'm not asking you to do super fast at this point. Just whatever works for you. Once you're confident doing it on your A string, maybe have a go at doing it on all the other strings as well. Because by doing that, what you'll learn is that when you play different strings on the guitar, your hand needs to adopt a slightly different position for that picking technique. So what I've got used to doing my A string, when I'm playing my E string, I need to play my hand in a slightly different position. But I'm still concentrating on that economy, small movement, rather than the big sweep across all of the strings. So I'll leave you with that for now. I'm going to post some videos following this on getting the timing right using a metronome, making some transitions between different tempos. Sounds a bit complex, but I'll explain that. And maybe also have a look at an introduction to alternate picking as well, which is something I'll explain in the appropriate video. So hopefully that's useful. Look out for the new videos as they come up, and have a go at this. Don't worry about your speed, that'll come with time. Play it nice and clean, don't get the other strings ringing out, and enjoy.